Welcome back to Grand Prix World for coverage of round 1 from Australia. Last time out we qualified 5th and 6th, even though we'd technically been robbed of what I considered to be a potential 1-2 or 1-3 start. This is my third take of this due to various problems, so hopefully we can get through it. I'm noticing that we seem to have a propensity for accidents when pushing, so I'm going to be quite conservative out of the gate. You're probably wondering why that is. The previous two starts to this race, on the first lap, we've had one car with a front wing damage and one car with a rear wing damage both times. And it seems to be going into turn 1-2, straight from the start. There seems to be something kind of coming together and we tend to lose a lot of places, so clearly our drivers don't have the skill on that lap. So it's kind of safe scummy, I suppose, but in both cases, the coverage was cut by a crash and not by the fact an accident took place. I've been looking for a bit of spice for the season, and I'm sure we'll have failures anyway, given the reliability problems we already know about. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, here we are. I'm going to tell them to make themselves as wide as possible, and obviously to push, but I'm not going to have them push for the overtake. I think that would do more harm than good, based on what we've seen so far. So 4th and 6, and same again. Shinji Nakano has picked up a wing issue. We're going to change his strategy. We're going to cut out that middle stop, and we're going to fuel him for 19 laps here. And then I have to work quickly. We'll pull him in again at lap 39. Okay, hopefully he can make it round. Deniz is sat in 9th. I think this... Oh, that's Nakano out. So, as you can see, the rear wing has come away from the car completely. He's out of the race. Bit of a bummer. I think it's time then for us to have Deniz begin to push. So David Coulthard leads ahead of John Newhouse. Heinz-Harald Frentzen for Ferrari's 3rd. Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher for the Williams are 4th and 5th. Barrichello takes 6th. Eddie Irvine and Esteban Tuero in the Benettons are 7th and 8th. And Deniz for us is in 9th. We have some ground to make up. Clearly we have the 1 lap pace. I don't think that's really questionable. So we are, I would consider, out of position. Tora Takagi is also out of the race. Unspecified at the moment as to why that was, but we will figure it out. It's removed Shinji Nakano from the list completely. Good news is, though, that the driver is okay, uninjured. There is no yellow flag situation, so all we can do at the moment is keep pressing, and hopefully someone ahead of us makes a mistake. We've got the Sauber of, I believe, Johnny Herbert right up the arse of Pedro Diniz. Sauber are running a more powerful engine, I believe, so yeah, we could be out of luck. We could be shit out of luck for round 1. Now what will happen is, just to fill you in, if at any point Diniz develops a failure, I will sim the rest of the race, because our investment in it at that point is over. I am disappointed to have Nakano out yet again. There is obviously some kind of issue that's causing both drivers to lose a lot of ground during the first corners. It's very strange, given that we believe our advantage, if we have an advantage, is aerodynamic. I'm wondering if restarting the game again has jiggered some of the figures around. It is possible. Maybe the car isn't quite as sexy as it was in the that glorious qualifying session where we had Nakano on pole. So we're still sat in 9th. We're doing our best to keep Johnny Herbert behind us. Obviously that puts more stress on the driver, and the question we have to make is, do we let him through and take some pressure off Deniz, making him less likely to make a mistake, and then hope that we can make up the time by saving that pit stop that we will be saving. Also, driving defensively means he's losing ground on the cars ahead. So you can see the Benettons and the Ferraris and so on are actually pulling out a gap to us now. I'm going to say at this point, I think the best thing to do is to keep Herbert behind us at least for a few laps, because we are racing for position. And if the more cars we can keep behind us, the more we're almost guaranteed to finish ahead of. There's a yellow flag out on circuit. I don't know who that's for. Only 18 cars so far have passed the timing line. Who has dropped out? It looks like a Minardi. It looks like a Minardi. Let's take a look here. Here we go. Yeah, it was Shinji Nakano out on lap 0 with a rear spoiler failure. Tora Takagi had an accident in the Tyrrell, lap 1, and lap 3, Mika Salo's Minardi had a brake failure. So looks like we're not the only ones with reliability problems on the brake front. Finishing lap 5. Five's not even a number. And David Coulthard still leads from Jacques Villeneuve or John Newhouse. We'll call him Johnny Newhouse, I think it works. Frentzen holding on to 3rd. It seems it's quite tight at the front. It seems it is quite tight. I would hazard a guess that maybe McLaren have Newhouse driving relatively defensively. Likewise, what you'll notice is Deniz has got a teensy bit more breathing space ahead of the Sauber of Johnny Herbert, so presumably he's coming on song a little bit. What we need to rely on really now is a bit of attrition above us, I think. I guess our 1 lap pace is great, but the fully laden race pace, so full fuel, the car maybe isn't quite so sexy. Very disappointed to see the Tyrrells and the Minardis so far behind already. Stewart have clearly taken a step backwards. I think that's indisputable, but I did rate the chances of the Minardis and Tyrrells leapfrogging Stewart to be quite high, so to see them behind on the race is a bit odd. The Prost as well are very lethargic. So we are learning considerable amounts here. I mean, we have, it would appear, leapfrogged Jordan. I'm fairly sure that that's legit. Someone else has had a failure. It looks like a Stewart actually. Yeah, Ricardo Rossi, engine failure in the Stewart, lap 5. I forget which power Stewart are on. I think they're on Mercedes partner power, so bit of a surprise there. I'm going to keep letting this run, and I'll join you momentarily. Back once again, and the leaders are now, I would say, more than half a lap ahead of the Minardi. At this rate, we're going to see lapped cars from, I don't know, as early as lap 14. I would expect certainly to see the Minardis, Tyrrells and Stewarts to be a few laps down come the end of the race. Deniz is doing well. He's holding off the advances of Johnny Herbert. And again, we only need 3 problems to develop ahead of us to clinch ourselves a point, and I'd be happy with a point given what we've thrown away so far. I am disappointed. I think all of you will understand why, given how strongly qualifying opened. But again, as I said at the time, it's quite probable that some cars weren't really showing their true hand. And given the power that we're able to deploy, I think we're doing quite well, actually. It seems to be a solid, well-handling car, and we might have the ability to develop it a little. I'd expect to see us pick up some trail end points. I'd be loath to say at the moment we can expect to pick up a podium here or there as we did last season, which I still have no explanation for. I have absolutely no explanation for that 3rd from Deniz. Something else to consider is that this problem is not going to do Shinji Nakano's morale any good. It also means we're going to have a damaged chassis straight away. So that obviously is regrettable. What we'll do is, I guess, we'll put Shinji Nakano's car onto test duties, leave the damage on there because it doesn't affect its test output, and we'll move him into John Fellowes' car. Now I forget who it was who messaged me, but someone has pointed out by email, and I'm sorry, I get emails from other videos aside from Grand Prix World. I still get emails from other videos I do elsewhere as well, so I do apologise. My brain is so fuzzy today from being sick that I forget all these details, but someone did point out that John Fellowes on speed alone is actually statistically speaking better than Shinji Nakano, and would I consider grooming Fellowes for a race seat? I'm prepared to do it if people are interested in seeing that develop, but I would like to have a more serious discussion about drivers maybe halfway through the season. As always, your feedback is appreciated, and if anybody's got any early feelings about what we should be doing, I can give you my prognosis as it stands, that drivers, in particular Mika Hakkinen, should be an easy steal if we were looking to sign a top-rate driver. We could probably also expect to pick up Mika Salo again if we wanted, but he didn't really come on song for us last time out. Alexander Wurz at Jordan and Giancarlo Fisichella at Sauber are arguably where they should be at this stage in their career, I feel. I would say my most successful 3 drivers in my time playing this game, like long-term development, have always been Fisichella, Wurz, and Jarno Trulli. Juan Pablo Montoya could gain some reasonable race experience in the Tyrrell this season. He's not the superstar in this game that he was in F1. He's statistically no different from any other unproven driver, so there's no real incentive to pick him up at this point. Of course, if we were looking for experience as well, that's an early pit stop there for Alexander Wurz in the Jordan. I don't know what strategy he's on. Maybe he picked up some damage, but a pit on lap 12 would imply a certainly minimum 2-stopper, possibly even a 3-stop. We do have the tyres for 3-stop strategies, so it's a very ballsy call, but he's come out now between the Prosts. What's very interesting to see is Alberto Marini is outperforming Mika Hakkinen fairly convincingly. There are numerous factors as to why that can be. I don't know how much of it is randomised. Maybe I should do a bit more research for you, but I have seen this before. It can be that the driver doesn't fit in with the team. It can be they've got a morale problem. It can be that they don't synergise with the car that's been designed, or maybe it's a weakness in an area of the car that complements a weakness in their own statistics. But him performing poorly as well will make him even easier to poach. What I would expect is a big team to go in for him, though. And he's probably still a little bit out of our price range. We could probably pick him up for significantly less than he was on at McLaren at the start of the game, but he's still going to be on double figures in the millions, and we just don't have that kind of cash lying around. A deal with Playlife could probably underwrite his salary and have change left over, but I'm not confident we'll pick it up. So entering lap 14 now, still 1-2 for McLaren. Schumacher's holding on quite comfortably to third, it seems, under a little bit of pressure from Heinz-Harald Frentzen, but nothing that he can't handle. Damon Hill holding on to fifth. Rubens Barrichello seems to have taken a slip back, actually. I don't recall when that happened. But the most important statistic, of course, is that we are still holding on to ninth, ahead of Johnny Herbert, and we're backing Herbert up into the clutches of a Lacey, which is actually very helpful for us, because then Johnny's going to have to basically drive a little bit more defensively himself, which means pressure on us starts to fade, and you're already starting to see that happen. Actually, if you look on the diagram, you see that we actually have a fairly reasonable gap now between us and the Sauber. It could also be that we're entering the pit stop territory for those on the soft compound tyre. One of the Williams has just come in, for example, and we are staying out for another 14 laps. So our tyres are actually entering sort of the mid of their life cycle, and that tends to be where you start to see really good performance because temperature's well and truly inside the tyre, and it's at its grippiest, but also it hasn't really begun to grain and fall away on us. Um, there we see, and I called it lap 14-15, and we're starting to see drivers being lapped. That's the Minardi of Olivier Panis being passed by David Coulthard. The Tyrrell obviously was being impeded to some degree by the Minardi because he's now right up the back of the Stewart there. I don't know if that's Montemini maybe, or is Montemini out of the race? I'll see when we cross the line, but pit stops are happening, and they're happening with increasing frequency. That gives us plenty of clean air now on the back of the Ferraris. It's still registering Damon Hill ahead of us, but that's just because of how we crossed the last timing line. Let's take a look who is in that Stewart. Because they're doing a good job holding off that Tyrrell. I would argue the Tyrrell's probably a little bit faster. Based on what I've seen so far, you just saw them pass the camera there on the TV pictures. Yeah, it is. It's Andrea Montemini in the Stewart who's doing a decent job holding behind the Tyrrell there. So we are 3 seconds behind. Oh no, last lap. We're 9 seconds behind Rubens Barrichello's Ferrari. However, he's yet to stop, I believe. Eddie Irvine is 10.3 seconds ahead of us in third position, but also yet to stop. David Coulthard still leads. I'm not sure if he's stopped either, actually. He's leading from behind Tyrrell Frentzen in the Ferrari. Eddie Irvine is in the Benetton with Works Mercedes powers. So in engine terms, it's Ford, Mercedes, Ford, Mugen at the moment. We have so much air in front of us, but we will, over the next few laps, be lapping the Minardi. So I don't know if he's carrying some level of damage because the car did not appear that slow. Eddie Irvine stays out for another lap, which allows him to inherit the lead ahead of Rubens Barrichello, who is also staying out. We have a failure on one of the Williams. Who was that? I just saw that in the top corner. Michael Schumacher has a failure on the Williams Ford on the engine. That allows us to inherit a place. Pedro Diniz currently sits third, yet to stop, but still a considerable amount of time from our pit stop. I'm going to turn off the defensive driving option since it's not serving any purpose, and we'll have him push. Hopefully his concentration can make it through to the end of the race. I'll check him in a moment for any damage on the car, any checks we need to perform. Giancarlo Fisichella is way behind us, and I'm not sure if he's stopped either, actually. I'm sure there's a pit stop count somewhere. Barrichello inherits the lead from Irvine, which means we inherit second position. Stops. Who's made stops and who hasn't? Everyone's made a stop, apparently, except us. Surely that can't be right. I don't think that was a genuine readout there. I've got a yellow flag. Who's that for? Andrea Montemini, after heroically fighting off the Tyrrell, seems to have brought out the frustration in Juan Pablo Montoya, with Montoya's Tyrrell being taken out by an accident, which coincidentally happened on the same lap Andrea Montemini had a rear wing loss, so I'm guessing those two incidents are related. We've now lapped the Minardi of Olivier Panis, and we are very far off the back of Rubens Barrichello's Ferrari, 9 laps to our own pit stop. I still haven't found out if Barrichello has stopped. He has not. Barrichello has not stopped, so he's obviously running the hard compound tyre as well. Let's just take a look here. We have no checks to perform Our tyres are holding up reasonably well. I don't see any need at the moment to change our strategy. I don't think there's any gains to be made. Ideally, if we could undercut Barrichello, that would be good. I could see him actually pitting the same lap as us though, which means there's no gain. We've now been split by a pitting Prost, which should be blue flagged out of our way, I believe. Mika Hakkinen is having a terrible day at the office. Oh, he's cut off our front wing. And we're out of the race. God damn it. God damn it. So Pedro Diniz retires from second with a front wing loss, thanks to being cut off by the Prost of Mika Hakkinen. It was Mika Hakkinen, number 16. The car's been recovered. We've got a yellow flag situation. That's a real bummer. We have two damaged chassis now. We've got a lot of work to do. That's really unfortunate. We did make it to nearly half distance though, and it wasn't a reliability problem that took us out of the race. Let's then fast forward through to the end of the race and see what the end result is. Rubens Barrichello takes the win for Ferrari, ahead of Hans-Harald Frentzen in the Ferrari. David Coulthard in the McLaren takes third, ahead of Irvine in the Benetton, and Fisichella picks up 2 points for Sauber. Tuero picks up a final point for Benetton. We had 12 finishers to the race. Final retirement for a clutch problem for Alexander Wurtz's Jordan. Olivier Panis finished the race, so did Marini in the Prost. Good, we took Hakkinen out with us. We lost our front wing, he lost his rear wing, so it labels it an accident for Pedro Diniz, so it's arguably his fault actually that happened, and I could see it given that we'd had him pushing, the entire distance almost. Thank you very much for joining me. It's a bit of a disappointing start to the season, but there is some positives to be found. I'll see you soon.